Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Micah Yu. Welcome to Lupus LA. I'm going live today to talk about environmental toxins. And I'm just a little bit background on me. I'm a rheumatologist in Southern California in private practice here in Newport Beach. And my clinic is called Dr. Lifestyle, but I also practice integrative medicine as well. And currently, I'm in my integrated medicine fellowship at the University of Arizona, and I'm also studying functional medicine at this time. And environmental toxins is a very important topic that we don't really learn in allopathic medicine. Environmental toxins, we learn about that in environmental medicine, which is a branch of integrated medicine. And there are so many things that can contribute to the immune system and autoimmune disease. And we know that, stress plays an important role, diet, exercise, stress levels, and mental health. But what about the environment? What's in the environment that can possibly contribute to um, the autoimmune diseases that we have in this world and contribute to our immune system and other systems of our body as well. There's so much to talk about today regarding environmental toxins. So, if you have any questions, please just send your question here in the chat box, and I'll continue talking about these toxins. Okay, so first of all, there's so many things that we don't know at this time about environmental toxins, but there's a lot of evidence that's coming out, whether it's a lab study or a human study. These environmental toxins are in the air, they're in the water, they're in our food system, and they're in our home as well. There's home pollution and there's outdoor pollution, and they can contribute to many functions in our body. And our body, we naturally can detoxify these things, but some of them do stay in our body. So one of the first environmental toxins I want to talk about is pesticides and herbicides. So in farms these days, we do use pesticides for our crops, and especially if they're not organic. However, these pesticides, such as glyphosate, can potentially, in a negative way, contribute to our body. So there was a study a couple years ago in one of the rheumatology journals, and it was on a study of pesticides and lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. And what they found was that patients who so just to give you background on the study, it was basically they were tracking a bunch of, I think, females in the study, and they were seeing whether these females eventually developed lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. And in the study, what they found was that the patients, the subjects who had direct contact with these pesticides growing up had a higher association, higher risk of having lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. The patients who were around, just being around these pesticides growing up, like if someone was spraying it around their home or the family member was using it, they also had a higher risk as well. But the strongest risk were the patients who actually were directly spraying and using these pesticides in on the plants, on their food at home, or even if they lived on the farm. That was another risk factor as well. And glyphosate, it's a very controversial topic at this time. Some studies show that it may contribute to cancer risk. Some studies show that it may not. But there are studies that show that it can contribute to the gut microbiome in a negative way. It can, produce an increased intestinal permeability, also known as a leaky gut. So that's one of the things that pesticides can do. And it's always best, of course, to try to get organic food, because there's less use of pesticides or no pesticides used at all. However, sometimes, the organic farms are near the non-organic farms, and sometimes the winds can blow the pesticides over to the organic side. But I mean, it's always best. And if you're concerned about which foods you should get organic, you can consider going to the Environmental Working Group website. They have their Dirty Dozen, I think Clean 15 fruits and vegetables that has the least amount of pesticides, and they have the Dirty Dozen, which has the most amount of pesticides. So that's just one example of a website that you can use and a source you can use to determine which fruits and vegetables you should go organic. Because going organic, of course, it can be expensive, especially in today's world. So sometimes I like to pick and choose which ones I need to go organic. And other environmental toxins in the environment, you probably heard of BPA already. BPA is found in plastics, and it also helps coat the inside of metal as well. So sometimes in canned food there is BPA in it, and so sometimes you will find in the plastics now that you buy, like plastic water bottles or whatnot, they have something called BPA free on them. That's great, but one thing they don't talk about is BPS and other BPs out there. And BPA can be also known as an endocrine disruptor. And what are endocrine disruptors? There's a whole group of substances out there, chemicals that are endocrine disruptors. BPA, dioxins, perchlorate, PFAS, phthalates, PPDE, PCBs, triclosan. These are also known as environmental toxins and endocrine disruptors. And endocrine disruptors, they can affect fertility, they can affect the hormonal system. This is why it's called endocrine disruptors. And there's a lot of evidence out there. If you look on PubMed, it's all over PubMed as well. And it can get very, very complicated. So that's a big group of endocrine disruptors, but BPA is just one of them. So I would urge you to minimize the use of plastics, and canned food can be potentially another source as well. And if you do use plastics, you might want to avoid heating them up, because that can make the plastics attach to the food even more. And when you store food, you might want to go for more stainless steel or glass instead of plastics to store your food, because those plastics, they can attach, and the BPA can attach to your food. And when you eat your food, you're ingesting the BPA, and sometimes that can be hard to get rid of in your body. Other environmental toxins out there, I mentioned PFAS. PFAS is, it's in a lot of places. PFAS is a chemical that can reduce the amount of stickiness. It makes your everyday products less sticky to each other. So that's another example of an environmental toxin. And all these toxins, there is some evidence it affects almost a lot of different systems in our body: the nervous system, the immune system, the hormonal system, like thyroid, and reproductivity, behavioral issues as well in our kids and adults. There is some evidence out there. I think the evidence will be stronger as the years go on, but this is what we talk about in integrative medicine. We don't learn about this stuff in allopathic medicine or rheumatology. PCBs is another chemical out there. We find that in oil spills, and it's pretty high in farmed salmon and sardines. Okay, so even though fish is great, fish can be anti-inflammatory. There's omega-3 fatty acids in them. You want to try to get wild-caught fish, if possible, over farm-raised fish, because farm-raised fish, they get fed antibiotics and these other feeds that they're not normally supposed to eat. So PCBs is one of them that's highest in farm fish. Of course, your wild-caught fish can have PCBs in them from the environment and oil spills, but it has less than your farm-raised fish. Okay, so PCBs is another one. Dioxins, I mentioned, is also known as persistent organic pollutants, and these are known as forever chemicals. Actually, there are environmental scientists out there that can't even give a half-life on the breakdown of these pollutants, because these dioxins, they can last a very, very long time in the body, and sometimes these are very, very hard to get rid of. There are, of course, scientific detoxification protocols out there that integrative doctors and naturopathic doctors may help with patients who have these in the body when they're measured at a very high level. But as far as allopathic medicine, rheumatology is concerned, we don't have anything that we know of to get rid of it. But later on, I'll teach you some other natural ways to help detox the body. Okay. Um, in lupus, one thing that has been found to be associated with lupus is silica. So you can find this in some of the rheumatology journals and some of the lupus journals as well. Silica is a substance and a chemical that can be found in construction, mining, ceramics, and also in tile work. And what they have found was that the ANA level, there has been a higher risk of having an ANA level with increasing exposure to silica. So that is something that we have found in some of the rheumatology journals. So that's something that's concrete, that's out there. Another chemical that I want to talk to you about is something called VOCs, volatile organic compounds. And volatile organic compounds are man-made chemicals found in paints, sometimes in pharmaceuticals. You can find them in air fresheners, dry cleaners, paints, gasoline, air fresheners, and they like to attach to dust. So actually we have a lot of VOCs in the home. It's called indoor air pollution. And sometimes we have more of this in the home than outside. And that's because we have so many different chemicals in the home that we don't even think about. And dust is a major source of these volatile organic compounds because these volatile VOCs like to attach to dust. So what I recommend to my patients and my followers on social media is basically to use air purifiers at home, especially a good one that can get rid of these. I encourage my followers and patients to also I encourage my followers and patients to also vacuum at least once a week to get rid of these VOCs. So that is just some of them that is, in the environment that can affect our body. And there's so much out there. Today is just a little intro to environmental toxins. There's also heavy metals that we can also talk about in the future: mercury, lead. These are other environmental toxins. So natural ways to minimize these toxins is just to avoid them as much as possible. Use clean products, toxin-free products if possible. And also, sweating is a great way to help detoxification. Of course, there's supplements out there and other protocols out there that naturopathic doctors and integrative doctors like to do. But naturally and safely, it's a sweating, whether it's through exercise or through sauna, and eating right as well. Make sure you eat, a lot of fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables have natural ways to help detoxify the body, help you get rid of flush these things out of the body. Broccoli and these cruciferous vegetables are excellent vegetables with detoxification. So those are just some of the fruits and vegetables out there that can help you. And sleeping right, going to saunas for sweating. These are excellent things that I like to do on a day-to-day basis to help myself minimize my exposure to these toxins. And some of the questions are coming through. Silica is some of the dry shampoos on the market too. Yeah, I know. It's unfortunate. There's so many environmental toxins in the environment. Mia asks, is there any link between air pollution and lupus activity? From what I remember, there is. I know there's definitely articles in rheumatology journals on air pollution and rheumatoid arthritis, and I think I came across one with lupus and air pollution, and it doesn't surprise me. I think we're gonna find more and more articles on air pollution and different rheumatology diseases. They're just starting to come out. Air pollution, it's hard to avoid. So one of the questions in my questionnaires when I ask my patients is, do you live near a busy road? Do you live near a freeway? Because that can increase your risk of having exposure to air pollution. So that, having a really good air purifier at home is really important to minimize your exposure to these air pollutions. They're when you go outside, it's hard. When you live more inland, especially in Southern California, more towards the desert, there's more air pollution. Where you live closer to the ocean, there's less air pollution. So where you live is very important, but sometimes it's just very hard to remove your exposure to air pollution. So optimizing your lifestyle is very important, like eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, organic if possible. Everything else I said, exercising so you can sweat, sleeping well, because that will help with detoxification and also will help with your immune system as well. So I think in the future, hopefully in the next 10 years, more and more data will come out with these environmental toxins and the immune system and also autoimmune disease. Right now, we don't have great data solidifying it, connecting with autoimmune disease, but there are different biochemical pathways that I have learned in my integrated medicine fellowship and functional medicine that talks about these things. So I think right now it's a lot of self-education. You're not going to get this education and information from your rheumatologist or primary care doctor or allopathic doctor. Unfortunately, we don't learn about this stuff. This is called environmental medicine, and this is something in the integrated medicine field that we do learn. And you just have to right now learn about it yourself. Follow me on social media at my autoimmune MD. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, YouTube. I'll be talking more about these toxins in the future, so you can learn as well and minimize your risk of having these exposures. And if you do have these, you can learn ways naturally to help detoxify the body. So it was very nice talking to you all. This is just a little intro to environmental toxins, and I would love to talk to you and educate you more on this topic because I think it plays a role in rheumatology and rheumatology diseases, and it's one of the missing links that we will discover in the future. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Thank you, Lupus LA.